Yo, what is up, my Shadow Armies? It is I, Shadow Critias, back again with another What If video. So, yeah, if you guys see the thumbnail and the title and when I post on the community tab, I forgot to mention about the Dark Disciple, and there were some things I forgot to mention in the last part of, well, the death of Count Dooku, the, Obi-Wan going to Utapau to deal with Grievous, the defeat of Grievous, that Chancellor Palpatine is a Sith Lord. Well, no, I think Kage will probably figure that out later on when the Rise of the Empire. What else? The Siege of Mandalore happening. I forgot to mention that. No way, Kage would not know about the Siege of Mandalore, so he basically be in the dark, so he wouldn't know. So yeah, I think that's like the only three things I forgot to mention is the Dark Disciple, the death of Count Dooku, Grievous and Utapau, and his death. So I forgot to mention that. That was on me. So this is gonna be part 2.5 of the Dark Disciple. So yeah. So basically, this is what if scenario of what if Kage Tatsuma was in Star Wars 2.5, aka The Dark Disciple. Basically go over the actual book of The Dark Disciple. And I have thought of this recently, like how this would play out, since Kage is Quinlan Voss's Padawan, and now Kage is a fully fledged Jedi Knight, and the war is about to end. So let's say this takes place before another year later, because Kage was 20 before the beginning of the Clone Wars. Like I said in the last part, a year later, Kage became 20. So let's try. It never specified what timeline or year that it take place for the Dark Disciple. So I would say almost another year has passed. So basically, Kage will be 22 in this era. So yeah, I forgot to mention that. He will be 21. My mistake. I don't want to say 22. So basically, the second year of the war, Kage will be 21, and the third year he's 22. So, aka the Nightfall. So basically, the Nightfall he'll be 22. So basically, Kage is in his early 20s. So yeah, I forgot to mention that, and that was my fault on that. So yeah, but well out of the way, let's just go ahead and dive right into it. Basically, we started the story how it was from the book, how Dooku slaughtered the entire villagers and his people and the population from the book. The Jedi Council are talk about this and what they should do now. Mace Windu suggests they should do an assassination, which the council, well, don't like the idea and debating on this, and they had no choice to go along with it. And yeah, the assassination is not the way of the Jedi, but the question stands, who will be the one to do the killing? Who will be the one to assassinate Count Dooku? People are thinking there's two Jedi they could ask. Master Voss, Jedi Knight Kage Tatsuma. They are discussing who should be the perfect fitting out of the two of them, Kage or Quinlan. And few of the council think it should be Kage, since he's more skillful of his stealth mission and skillful than Quinlan Voss. And also, well, despite the council discuss and displeased that Kage is the only Jedi that use a bit of dark side abilities, plus of his rank being a Jedi Sentinel. And they think he's a perfect fitting for the job. Even Plo Koon, Plo Koon, Kit Fisto, and Ki-Adi-Mundi is a perfect fitting that it should be Kage, saying he gets his job done a lot quicker and faster. But the other council, like Mace Windu, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Aayla Secura, Aayla Secura is part of the Jedi Council? No. Shakti and the other rest of the member of the council think it should be Quinlan Vos because he has more experience and with his force ability to touch any object to look past the previous of the history that it was used or anything that it has transpired. So the voting is kind of near close between Kage and Quinlan. So Master Yoda gives a final decision to have Quinlan Vos to be the one to do with this mission. So basically goes in the canon material. So basically, Quinlan Vos was signed to assassinate Count Dooku, but he's not going to be alone. Quinlan Vos was, don't like this and think that's not the way of the Jedi, but he luckily decided to do it. But he's not going to do it alone. He has to work with Asajj Ventress, former Sith assassin to Count Dooku. And so basically, everything goes as well. And Kage was wondering where his master is going. As much Quinlan Vos wants to tell his Padawan about, his former Padawan as a Jedi Knight, he wants to tell him about this mission, but he can't. But basically, as much he wanted to, I think he actually would allow to tell Kage, because out of all the Jedi that he trusts, out of all the Jedis that he actually trusts the most, he trusts Obi-Wan Kenobi, but he trusts his actual former people, his so-called former Padawan. So he actually tells Kage about the mission that the Jedi Council were about to give one of us the assassination mission to kill Count Dooku. And they chose Quinlan. Kage is taken aback by this and shocked that the Jedi Council are willing to go that far to assassinate a Sith Lord. And the part of him was like, it's about time. But the part of him is like, this is not the way of the Jedi. They really lost their way. He's conflicted of his rank as a Jedi Sentinel and him following the will of the Force. He's somewhat in the middle, doesn't know what to feel about this. And that leaves Kage a question. Why did they even chose him? Because he's a lot more skillful, became good at a stealth mission than his master, even though his master has more experience than him. But Kage got a lot more better. Plus, he's like the only Jedi ever used dark side abilities, despite the Council despise of Kage using any dark side abilities. But still, luckily, they chose Quinlan, which makes sense that he has more experience than Kage. But still, surprisingly, they never thought to have Kage go along with Quinlan without having Savage to have Ventress help. But that's kind of odd. They willing to have Quinlan to go on his own to ally with Ventress and not have Kage by his side, just like old times. Which Quinlan completely understand why, even he is wondering, but the council think that he should just go along and ally with Asajj Ventress. So, Kage just have a bad feeling about this. And he's hoping he will come back home safe, like always. Because, I forgot to mention of the loss of his master, Master Thrawn, Quinlan's master. Ever since before the war, or during the war, or the beginning of the war, his master died by the hands of Count Dooku, which we all know that it was Savage Ventress, but none of them do not know this. So basically, both of them said their farewell, and Quinlan Vos goes on his mission to find Ventress, just like the actual canon. So basically, Kage goes to, need some time to process all of this. He went to his quarters to clear his mind into meditation until he has someone comes to the door. And surprisingly, it's Master Kenobi. Kage is shocked and said, Master Kenobi, this is a surprise. What brings you here? And Obi-Wan comes in and said, I believe that your master told you about the assignment that he was instructed. Yeah, he told me. And I could tell he didn't want to tell me anything, but I can understand why he told me. I understand as well. The bond between master and apprentice is a strong connection to the Force. And he is wise to trust you with this information. And Kage see a bit of, well, not right in Kenobi. And Kage tells him, this is not the way of the Jedi, Like, are y'all sure this is the right decision? I mean, I know I have my own vendettas about the Council, but killing a Sith Lord is not a way of the Jedi. It shows that that y'all have lost your ways. Obi-Wan actually agrees. Yes, the assassination is not the way of the Jedi. But having one of your own Jedi to do the mission is not right. But they had to do what is best for the people and the Republic. But Kage thinks like, are we really doing it for the people? Or we're just doing it for the Republic and the Senate? And Obi-Wan tells Kage that's literally not fair. And Kage tells her, I'm not trying to be. I'm just stating the facts, Master. And you know how I am with the Council and their decision. You're the most wisest Jedi next to Master Yoda. Surely you know this is not the right course of action. And yet, y'all go along with it. Obi-Wan actually, honored and takes that as a compliment, but also honored that he sees Obi-Wan as a wisest Jedi next to Master Yoda, which he actually appreciated that a compliment. But Obi-Wan tells Kage that he's gonna be keeping an eye on Quinlan and keeping up to date of his assignment. So for now, Kage is not gonna be learning anything else what's happening in the mission. Just only what his master is going and what the assignment is. So basically, Kage is going to be left in the dark for the rest. So Kage actually bows in respect to Master Kenobi, and Kenobi, went off, left his quarters to leave Kage to his private, have his own private alone. Then suddenly, a few minutes later, Momo comes in. See if he's doing okay, doing alright, because she hasn't seen him since all day today. And Kage says that he is not, and he just had this feeling that something's not going to be right. Basically, he tells Momo about his master is on a mission to assassinate Count Dooku, but he's going to need Asajj Ventress to help him out. Which, that is shocked Momo. The Council allowed this. And it basically shows the Council really goes that far to end this war quickly. Desperate times call it desperate measure, as they say. But they can do nothing about it and see how this goes. But Kage just had this feeling that something isn't right. Felt something bad is going to happen to his master. For the past few, I would say about a week, give or take, everything happens like in canon. Quinlan Vos finds Asajj Ventress and Quinlan became partners, and then Ventress and Quinlan are arrived at Dathomir, where Ventress tells Quinlan about her origin, and also training Quinlan in the ways of the dark side to able to use the dark side abilities. And yeah, that basically plays out of canon. And of course, the romance between Ventress and Quinlan goes out as canon. But this is the Legend EU Quinlan Voss, not TCW, even though it's the TCW version of Quinlan, but as a Legend version of Quinlan. So, yeah. And even Ventress is actually surprised to send Quinlan Voss. She thought they would send his Padawan Kage Tatsuma to do the job, since he's the only Jedi who wields the dark side abilities, plus he's a Jedi Sentinel, fitting for the job. But even she is surprised. So basically everything goes well as usual. Everything goes like in the actual book, but they're heading down to Dooku's home planet to trying to find a way to get to his quarters to assassinate him, but it didn't go well. Ventress escaped, Quinlan Voss gets captured, gets tortured, and also, well, Quinlan learns the truth that it was Ventress that was Ventress killed Master Thrawn, because Ventress told Quinlan that it was Dooku that killed Master Thrawn and kept Master Thrawn's lightsaber. When Quinlan touched the saber, learns the truth that it was Ventress killing Master Thrawn by ordering to kill him by Count Dooku. So basically, Dooku gives the order to Ventress to kill Master Thrawn. So Ventress kind of tell the truth that, yeah, it was Ventress. No, it was Kate. Oh my god. And I can't fucking speak. I keep getting the name mixed up. So basically, Ventress was telling the truth that it was Dooku, the one who had Thrawn killed, but it was by the hand of Ventress, which leads Quinlan Voss to the dark side, and Ventress and the rest of the bounty hunters are trying to rescue Voss until the mission failed and everyone has to fall back. So basically, Kage felt the disturbance in the Force, felt something not right, he felt it. And then all of a sudden, he rushed out of his quarters trying to go finding Master Kenobi until he sees him with Asajj Ventress. Oh, something's not right. And so Master Kenobi tells Kage to come along with him. It's best for him to know as well the full detail. Like, deserve to know the truth. Surprisingly, the council are gladly Ventress is here, but also surprised that Kage is here. He was not invited to this meeting, but Obi-Wan tells that he has the right to know of everything. Plus, he knows about the assassination mission that they assigned for Quinlan Voss. So basically, Kage is now going to stick around. So basically, Ventress been asked and been answered their questions that Quinlan Voss fought to the dark side, Ventress and Quinlan Voss fell in love, and Ventress kind of trained Quinlan Voss to train in the ways of the dark side. Kage is lost for word. Everything came at him like a damn train hitting a vehicle. Like, Ventress and Quinlan in love? And she trained his master the ways of the dark side. And worst of all, his master got captured, tortured, and became Dooku's puppet, new apprentice. His master fall to the dark side. He knew something wasn't right. He had just had that feeling. And Kage blames the council. Not Ventress, not Dooku, but the council. He cursed at the council and like, how could y'all let this happen? You knew this was gonna fail, and yet you let it happen. You could have had me to sign this mission, and yet you have my master to do your dirty work. And look what happened. You made another enemy. You made one of the Jedi Master fall to the dark side because of your arrogance. And Obi-Wan tells Kage to, Kage, relax. I know this is bad, but it is bad. I just had the feeling it wasn't right, and I knew my master was going to be okay, but this is not the way of the Jedi. I cannot believe I'm saying this, but Dooku is right about one thing. Y'all have lost your way. Blind of arrogance, blinded by the dark side, been corrupted by the Republic and the Senate. If we don't change our way, we are no better than the Sith. And the council are muffling to each other that he made a point, but also a bit of frustrated of have Kage outburst. Ventress, on the other hand, well, she actually agrees with Kage. At least understanding, like, at least someone actually understands where she's coming from, and that she's not the only one thinks the Jedi lost their way, and never see Kage to go burst out and say in the council are arrogance, blindness, and foolish. And yes, the bond between Master and Apprentice is strong, but Master Yoda speaks up that they should do a rescue mission. But they need to discuss privately before any decision. Master Windu suggests that Kage and Ventress should not be involved with this. But instead, Master Yoda decided to do the opposite. Say, Master Kenobi, Skywalker, Tatsuma, and Ventress will be assigned to do a rescue mission to rescue Quinlan Vos, which Mace Windu was one of, cannot argue, cannot go against his wisdom, but also go against of his decision to not about having Kage and Ventress to be involved. Like, yeah, Mace Windu is not taking, that attitude, or not attitude, that argument that Kage just statement right in front of them. Master Kenobi completely understand how he's feeling. Understand how Kage felt. Like, yes, he gets it. Yes, he's right. We are being arrogant. We were foolish to let it happen. And yet, it happened. But Master Kenobi think that they should do it the right way. Rescue Vos, bring him back to the light, and give him a second chance. So basically, Master Kenobi is wanting to take the responsibility of the action for, keeping an eye on Quinlan Vos and should keep him up to date. So he will take the responsibility of this. Until they got a hologram message, and Master Yoda contact both Ventress and Kage come back inside, so they can hear the information about Dooku and Vos of where they're at now. So basically, the 4-strike team to rescue Quinlan: Master Kenobi, Anakin Skywalker, Kage Tatsuma, and Asajj Ventress, on a mission to rescue and get Quinlan Vos. Basically goes out the same in the actual book. They manage and actually capture Dooku and Quinlan. Kage felt hurt that his master fought to the dark side. Like, he still believes there's good in him. He wants to bring him back to the light. But sadly, failed. Until Quinlan Vos killed his best friend right in front of him. Not Kage. I forget his name. A Jedi that Quinlan Vos became best friends with killed him right in front of him, and actually both Dooku and Quinlan decided to escape. Kage and Obi-Wan tried to go after him, but Kage was fast enough to keep up. And And Quinlan tells, Dooku to do something and trying to slow him down. But Kage was able to jump over them and go to hand-to-hand combat on Quinlan. Quinlan was impressed and said, "You got a lot better at your combat, kid. I learned it from the best, master." And the fight goes on until Dooku shoots out Force lightning at Kage. Kage is in agonizing pain of the lightning. How pain and agony he is. Quinlan tells Dooku that that's enough. We need to go now. And Dooku sees that he is right. He will finish him off later. Until next time. So basically Dooku and Quinlan actually escape. So now that's it. Now it's Ventress and Kage decided to rescue Quinlan, to bring him back to the light and in Dooku's life. So basically kind of like in the book where when Quinlan trying to be a double agent to learn the ways who is a Sith Lord, but fails because, well, the ship crashed in a building and the fight commenced between, well, one Jedi and a former Sith assassin against a Dark Jedi, Quinlan Vos, and a Sith Lord, Count Dooku, commence. So the lightsaber clash, where Cages go up against Dooku and Quinlan go up against Ventress, trying to bring Quinlan back to the light side, which works. And basically, let's just say Dooku decided to drop the bombshell. He said, "I recognize those eyes of yours, Tatsuma. Your eyes reminded me of your father and the look of your mother." Cage's eyes widened. "How do you know about my parents?" And Dooku said, "It's simple, really. I was the one who killed your parents." Yeah. So, basically, yeah. That shocks Kage. Wait, hold on, that wouldn't make no sense. Fuck it, whatever. This snapped Kage. And this is where I forgot to mention where he was able to use Force Lightning. This is where he used Force Lightning on Dooku. And this made Ventress and Quinlan look and see how things turn out. Kage used Force Lightning on Dooku, but Dooku blocks it and used Force Push and Lightning to send Kage flying. And about to kill Quinlan, that he's turned back to the light, but Ventress jumps in and takes the blow and dies in Quinlan's arm. And Dooku was able to escape. So, yeah. So basically, Dooku escaped, but at what cost? Ventress is dead. Quinlan's back to the light. Everything is back to normal, so to speak, but Quinlan is going to be on supervision on Obi-Wan Kenobi and Kage Tatsuma. So the last thing they do is both Kage, Obi-Wan, and Quinlan are arrived at Dathomir so they can give Asajj Ventress a proper burial, which puts her in the water lake that we saw in the Tales of the Jedi. So yeah, that's basically what it is. So basically, Quinlan says his piece to Ventress that he will always love her, no matter what, until later on he does fall in love with Catherine later on. So, yeah. So basically, ever since then, Ventress will not be at rest for now. So Kage, Obi-Wan, and Quinlan leaves the cave or the temple or whatever, the castle, whatever, of the Night Sister, return to the ship and fly out the orphan of the planet of Dathomir. So yeah, that's it for this scenario of, part 2.5 Dark Disciple of What If scenario. And I'm glad I made this separately because I didn't expect it was going to be this long. I'm going to be honest. But yeah, the original plan I had of this idea, I was going to have Kage be the one to go assassinate Dooku. But since I did a part 2 and the Nightfall still happened, that's never going to be. So, yeah. I'm kind of disappointed because I really want to change some of the events of the Revenge of the Sith, but no, I gotta keep it the canon timeline as usual, which I kind of hate it so much. But anyway, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Links to my other channel, my social media will be down below in the description box. You guys know the drill. If you guys wanted to support the channel, links to my Cash App and my PayPal will be down below in the description box if you guys wanted to donate to support the channel. Again, like, comment, share, subscribe, and I'll see you guys later. Kneel before Shadow Critias. I'll see you guys later.